It's crazy, like just about every single product in the world could be enhanced with some of these, as long as you don't just sprinkle AI on top.
Aakash Gupta, creator of the Product Growth newsletter and longtime product leader. He's led teams at ThredUp, Epic Games, Affirm, and Apollo.io. And today, he publishes some of the most practical playbooks and experiments and AI in product. I speak to a lot of companies in this role. I can see how a lot of them right now, the one question that's top of mind for them is how can they raise what they call the AI fluency in their organization. So imagine you're a product leader today in a mid-market to enterprise. How would you go about it?
This is like $1 million question. People are actually printing money, building agencies, helping companies. The most boring but profitable niche business right now is helping companies with their AI fluencies.
If you had a piece of advice for any product manager listening to us today, what would it be?
Spend at least an hour a week trying out a new AI tool.
I'd love that.
I want to caution people that we could easily enter the golden age of the feature factory if we just start prototyping before we fully investigate. The cost of delivery becoming like zero. And so actually discovery is very, very important.
If you are a product manager today, what advice would you give to get into building with AI?
There's kind of 6 or 7 steps along the way. First thing is
Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Aakash Gupta, creator of the Product Growth newsletter and longtime product leader. He's led teams at ThredUp, Epic Games, Affirm, and Apollo.io. And today, he publishes some of the most practical playbooks and experiments and AI in product. Aakash, welcome to Product in Practice.
excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. How are you doing?
The energy in San Francisco is something else. It's really cool to be out here. You guys have an epic view out there. It reminds me of my time in the Bay Area. It's something else. And you can see that because all of AI is happening here.
It's true.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
The way I look at this is every single time I come here, I take this, obviously, the taxi from the airport into the office. And there are these giant billboards everywhere, and all they talk about is AI, which is like not a thing in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they have like software billboards and billboards for
Correct.
developers. Yeah, the 101 is a really good sense of who has overraised too much VC funding and is just spending it on marketing billboards.
Yeah, I can see that. You're based in LA now, right?
Yeah.
And like how are you finding it?
It's like a sunnier, warmer, more walkable version of San Francisco, minus the AI, you know? There's
Right.
some good tech companies there, but it's like Riot Games, that's a gaming company, or Netflix, that's, it's a streaming giant.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of different tech scene out there. And in terms of product, I would say it's not nearly as developed as San Francisco. Even if you look at like Netflix's chief product officer, where is she? She's in San Francisco. And so the product scene is developing, but I love it down there in terms of quality of life.
Love it. I was so excited to have you on the show. I've been following your content for ages now, and we've been working together on some of our content this year, so I'm super excited about. Before we dive into today's episode, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? So you've been writing this newsletter, doing a lot of content, practical content for PMs to elevate their craft. What have you been up to?
For me, it all started with just a writing habit online. And that was when I was a director of product growth. So I was already leading teams in product and growth areas. That was a busy enough job. But I found that writing was a really good way to clarify my thinking. And eventually, when I finally took the leap after becoming a VP of product and now creator, my tentpole has always been my newsletter. And so that's where I spend at least 50-75% of my time. Ideally 75, realistically 50.
Yeah.
And so that's all about just providing actionable content for PMs. I just call it builders now because PM is merging with design and engineering so much. And so designers, engineers, anybody building, especially AI products, writing about that. And that's been my main focus. The second thing that sometimes creeps up into the percentage of time is the podcast. Just building upon what I do in the newsletter, but using sponsorships to make that content free because a lot of the newsletter is paid content. And so those are my two things that I focus most on. Other than that, I have started to really develop an interest in helping people find jobs. And so I take on like very limited groups of people occasionally for coaching, for job coaching specifically. And, usually these are people who are like highly experienced, but for one reason or another, they're stuck somewhere in their job search.
Yeah.
So those are the main three things I'm working on these days.
I love it. You talked about product builders and how the crafts of product engineering design are kind of like merging. This is one of the things I wanted to talk about today, actually. If you are a product manager today or product builder, or you kind of like want to move into this space, what advice would you give, your typical average product manager in terms of how they can get there faster? Should they be researching something or be building something or be, playing with a bunch of tools out there? What would be kind of like your playbook to get there?
To get into AI.
To get into building with AI.
Yeah. So there's kind of 6 or 7 steps along the way. So I'll try to condense it really shortly, right?
Yeah.
The first thing is to know yourself. Understand, like, what am I most scared about as it relates to AI product building? Is it opening up an integrated development environment and looking at code, which feels like looking at the Matrix or something like that?
Yeah.
Is it actually understanding, what do transformers do? What is RAG? How do you build RAG for agentic systems? So figure out what are your deficiencies. And then the step 2 is like, jump on them straight away, right? And so usually for people, there is a knowledge gap. If I were to ask somebody, hey, what are the different architectures that an AI agent could have? If they can really understand that question, it's going to be hard to build AI agents. And so starting with the concepts, and I think that things are moving so fast that the topics that you need to know about, it's very hard to go to like a timeless source, like a book or something like that. Like, you actually need to go a lot of times to social media, literally. The best people doing this, they're on Twitter and LinkedIn. They're talking about these AI topics a lot. So following the right people and shaping your content diet, that's really like step 2. Step 3. So usually people at this stage need to get their hands into building AI products. And I would start with prototyping. And so it's not, something that you're building into production or something that you're selling to people, but just start with, an internal use case. Maybe for you, you're a big fan of fantasy sports. Why don't you go ahead and use a tool like Lovable, Bolt, or V0, some of these really easy to use prototyping tools, and maybe build something that would help you in your fantasy sports. Maybe you want to be able to track, who's injured, because that's really important for fantasy sports, and get an email. Hey, somebody on my team is injured. I need to move him out of my lineup, for instance, right? And then you might say, actually what I want to do is I want to have the agent move him out of the lineup for me. So you first code the AI prototype, and then you figure out, there's some limit here to this prototype. And so that brings you to the next step, which is to go from prototype to a full workflow. And so you'll use something like a Lindy or NAN or Make.com, one of these AI agent builders, Relay.app, Magic Patterns, the list goes on and on at this point, Base 44. And you use those to chain together a full workflow. So that's the next step. After that, the final step is let's start to get it into the code. As I said before, if that's your weakness, you want to do it earlier. But for most people, you can do it in this progression. And so final step, you get into like a Cursor or a Windsurf, one of these coding IDEs, and you start to use those to, instead of using an N8N or a Lindy workflow no-code builder, build your AI agent in code. And so you see these steps, right? We took a specific problem that you're passionate about, and we've built a full product end-to-end on it. Then,
and it actually doesn't have to be work-related, right? You could just like choose something you're passionate about.
Yeah. And then the final step is take it to work, right? Now build a real agentic AI feature into your product. Now that you understand what MCPs are, connect to some MCPs, and it's crazy. Like, just about every single product in the world could be enhanced with some of these, as long as you don't just sprinkle AI on top, right? Don't do that. Don't just add some AI flash, but actually go to the core problems you're solving and add AI in to help people do what they're working on, and it's a transform.
This was super helpful. Thank you so much for sharing these few steps for PMs to kind of like, I say PMs, but builders really, to get started. I speak to a lot of companies in this role, and I can see how a lot of them right now, the one question that's top of mind for them is how can they raise what they call the AI fluency in their organization. So imagine you're a product leader today in a, mid-market to enterprise company, so a larger company basically, and you're trying to get your organization or your team to raise their level of understanding and practice of AI and AI tools, how would you go about it?
Yeah, this is like $1 million question. People are actually printing money, building agencies, helping companies do this right now.
Yeah.
Like I would say the most boring but profitable niche business right now is helping companies with their AI fluency. So I can't distill, these playbooks that these companies are printing millions of dollars on. But if I were to summarize it in 1 or 2 minutes, right? The very first thing is how you behave as a leader. Are you openly actually trying the newest tools yourselves? A lot of leaders aren't, right? And so all those tools I just mentioned, had you used all of them? Because if you hadn't, you need to go use all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to implement them into your work. And then you need to go show your team how you've done it, right? And so I would say 2 or 3 that any person can do. Number 1 is an AI that drafts emails for you. And build out a really nice workflow. So what you do is you have the AI categorize. What type of email is this? Is this a email from somebody in my org who needs coaching? Is this an email from somebody outside my org who needs routing to the right person in my org? Is this something that maybe the AI needs to go ask me for input as a human before it takes it on? So it categorizes it, right? That's the first step in LLM categorize. Then each one of those categories, you have a system prompt that really helps the LLM respond to that category correctly. And then as you see these drafts populate in your email and you say, that draft isn't good, you go tweak the categorization and the system prompts. And eventually, you can actually build an AI agent that's drafting 70-80% of your emails and cutting your email down 70-80%. You'd build that workflow, you show it to your team. You do the same thing, you build that same workflow for Slack. You show that to your team. And then you build a competitor analysis. No matter who you are, even if you are the most user-centric company out there, JPD is a very user-centric company. You guys don't really pay that much attention to the competition, especially because you have a unique model being inside Jira.
Yeah.
But it still matters what Product Board and Pendo and other people are doing. And so you still want to get notifications so you can build a system that's giving you the right insights. Maybe you only care about getting it once a month. Great.
Yep.
Here's the latest launches from my competitive set. These are the features. These are what the users they're building for. Maybe even have the AI think about, what do you think their strategy was writing this? And having it summarize it back to you. Like, this was the Pendo product strategy in June 2024. That's super interesting. Or this is how Product Board and Pendo are encroaching on our territory. Whatever it is. And so these are at least 3 AI agents you can easily build and you can go show your team. And the second component of this, of course, is then make sure your team has the right enterprise licenses. A lot of companies, they're not putting out the money for a no-code agent builder. They're not putting out enough money to cover the API costs of these AI agents. You need to come up with a example, expectation, and funding for the project. And then the final thing is, as your team is building out all these AI agents in the company, you actually need governance. So you need to be making sure that they're not A, spending too much, and B, doing anything like giving access to systems that they shouldn't have. And so you actually need to build a team usually, like a competency within your security organization specifically around AI.
As a company, how do you communicate to your employees and say, hey, if you're using this type of tool, here is how we recommend you go about it? And I think one of the things we're quite lucky here at Atlassian is our leadership team is super forward in actually giving us access to a lot of these tools, because we want the AI fluency level to be really high as a company, right? And it's like a big part of what will be the future of collaboration in a lot of companies. So as an example, we did this big pilot of ChatGPT Enterprise. It's had a lot of traction. Our engineering team uses tools like Cursor. I think there's this real will, if I may, to actually think about what does the future of collaboration look like internally, and then how do we transpose that to our customer base, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things, it's interesting you mentioned market research and competitive research. One other thing I did last week actually was build a really simple workflow in NA10 where I basically start with a scheduler and I say, do this once a week. And once a week, it will go and ask Perplexity what has happened in the product world in the past 7 days, basically. And then take that, put it in Claude, summarize it, like basically put it in a nicer format, and then prettify it using Slack markup and then send me a message in Slack, because I realized if you send something directly from the output of an LLM directly into Slack, it's just like a blob of text, because it was output as a JSON, right? So it kind of like taught me about Slack Markdown. I didn't know you had to write in a specific format for it to look nice when it's sending you a message in Slack. And I like the fact that you've changed something that's probably was going to take a few hours every week of like browsing and looking at information across multiple tabs. And it's usually a pull, so you have to go and actually do it, versus now it's a push. I don't even need to think about it, and it sends it to a place where I usually work. So it's a small thing, but you can already see how like powerful this type of stuff could be.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
exactly what people need to be doing. They need to be hopping into an N8N, one of these no-code flow builders, because they're really approachable. It probably didn't take you too long to learn the tool.
No, I'd say like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So carve out an hour if you're a little bit more shy of the tech, and that's all you need.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things you mentioned earlier, you talked about how you are really invested in helping PMs elevate their craft and also like help them find the next job. And one of the questions I hear a lot from the product community is, I'd say like mid-level to senior PMs who are thinking about, okay, I want to elevate my skill set. I want to elevate how I do product in this AI era. How do you advise they should be thinking about, upskilling? Should they be reading about RAG, or should they be focusing about evals and how they develop that as like writing evals as a skill set? What are some of the advice you'd give them?
Both of those are incredibly important. You just nailed two of the topics that actually matter. There's a lot more to RAG than just, hey, it's retrieval augmented generation. It allows you to get access to an updated knowledge database. No, actually, like all the challenge is not in understanding that first concept, but in working with your engineers on the data pipelines, in writing the right evals to evaluate the RAG, like you said. And so evals and RAG are two of the most important. The way I would think about it is actually across the entire product development lifecycle. So you actually start with, before we get into how to build an AI product, what AI products should you build, right? And so in the process of product discovery now, whether it's JPD's AI or millions of other AI tools out there these days, you have AI that can help you monitor everything said about your product on social, every single Zendesk ticket filed, every single Gong call recorded on your sales team, every single outreach that they had on Slack in your community. You can have all of that fed into an AI to give you a good idea of what areas customers want. And then on the analytics side, you can have AI uncovering opportunities for you, like, oh, maybe your free to paid conversion rate is decreasing and you didn't realize it. Or maybe your net revenue retention is actually increasing due to this expansion motion you didn't know about. And so you should invest more into that expansion motion. And so you can use AI at the very start for even figuring out what you should be working on. And then once you start to investigate an area, you do like the core discovery work, right? You are interviewing customers, you're doing surveys. You can actually use AI to improve your interview guides, to improve your surveys. Then once those survey results and interview guides come in and you have your notes, well, you have AI taking those notes. You have AI synthesizing those notes. Then you put it into your, PRD, right? That's your final unit where you do your impact sizing to see, should I actually work on this? Again, you can have AI help you writing your PRD. You can have AI helping you create your impact sizing. Finally, you're going into your solution exploration, right? This is when you start to do AI prototyping with a V0 or a Bolt or a Lovable. And then after that, you're going to actually push it to production. That's when RAG and evals come in, right? So how are you going to equip this with the right information? Not just RAG, but agentically, how are you going to equip it with the right tools? And then for every step of these AI products, what are the right evals you're going to write? And then at the very end, once you finally ship it to production, you're going to analyze the results of that feature. Again, you can use AI to help you analyze data. So that's the whole product development lifecycle. What you as a PM need to do is you can just say, okay, Aakash just walked through like 15 use cases of AI. Which of the 11 am I not doing? Which one am I going to pick up first? And eventually get to using it in all 15.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks so much for sharing this. You touched on Jira Product Discovery and the work we're doing you've spoken to Tanguy, our head of product, to myself, to a bunch of other people on the team. What do you think are some of the practices we have in the team that companies out there could replicate and, adopt?
So the most important thing that I think you guys do is your product managers are the experts in your users, right? And that, I think, is something that most companies actually lose. I worked in fintech, for instance, almost had no access to the customers. There was no easy way for me to just, hey, send some guys a Slack message or something. It was like so overregulated. The team hadn't built the right culture within privacy and legal and compliance to allow the product team access. And so that's almost like a top-down problem, right? And then all of a sudden, your product managers aren't the people who know the most. That's a huge, huge problem, right? When they go to try to pitch a product to product marketing, when they go to try to pitch a product to sales or the regular demand gen, all those teams, customer success, support, they all start to question like, well, why is that person making the decisions? I'm talking to customers all day and I know more, right? And so I think that's one of the most important things. And you guys have a lot of rituals and tactics that you guys use to make the PM so knowledgeable. So I think one of the things you guys do is you have a PM rotation where like every week, like one PM is kind of responsible for all these different channels where customers are communicating to you. That's huge, right? And so it's almost like PMs are part of the customer success team a little bit, right? They're getting some of that on the ground knowledge that a customer success team would be getting so that when they go talk to the customer success team, they actually think, oh yeah, this person knows what they're talking about. They understand the product at a very deep level. And so that's one small thing you guys do, but being a product for product discovery, you guys do discovery really well, right? There's a bunch of other practices you guys have built in and around discovery, and you'd be surprised, like I would say more than 50% of PMs, the features they're working on, they haven't gotten to do much discovery.
I know. I've spoken to a lot of them. And I've also seen it in the past. So
yeah, it's like sales or customer success or some exec just has some conviction and that's what you end up building. And so just having that culture of discovery, I think those are the two most important things.
If you're interested in some of the content Aakash just talked about on Jira Product Discovery, you can check a number of posts you've done actually on our work culture and how we operate. We also share a lot of this stuff on the Jira Product Discovery community group on Atlassian.com. So check that out. Before we move to the demo segment, which is like the no fluff hands-on section of this show, I wanted to ask you, what have you planned for us? So what are we going to look at today during this demo segment?
So of those like 15 AI use cases, actually like 14 out of the 15 of those, most people they understand intuitively how to do. There's one that's super new. I think it's the biggest change that has happened to the product management job in the last few years, which is AI prototyping. And everybody knows that instinctually, like, oh, okay, AI prototyping is a big deal. Like, now I don't just deliver PRDs, I also deliver an AI prototype alongside it. Now I don't just deliver strategy documents, I actually deliver multiple AI prototypes to show the vision of what's coming in the next few years. And so we'll break down how to do AI prototyping right and how to avoid the common beginner's mistakes.
I love that. So let's get to it. All right, so we're on for the hands-on segment of the show. Aakash, what have you got in store for us?
Yeah, we're going to show you the easiest way to prototype well with AI prototyping tools like Bolt, Lovable, and V0. All right, so where we start is I want to caution people that we could easily enter the golden age of the feature factory if we just start prototyping before we fully investigate.
I love that, the golden age of the feature factory.
Yeah, because, the cost of delivery is becoming like zero. And so actually discovery is very, very important. And so what we need to do first is we need to simulate that we had done discovery work on a really good problem, and we need to choose a really good product. So let's use a product. I haven't even thought about this, but I'm just going to choose one now. So I'm wearing a Whoop right now, right? So what we can do is Can
you just remind people what a Whoop is?
Yeah, so this is a wearable device, right? So I'll actually explain that in a second, right? Yeah. So we're going to start with we're creating a product feature for Whoop. So basically we need to simulate as if we had actually done proper discovery work, right? So here's some of the things we might have learned from discovery. And I'm just going to use my own personal example, but 95% of people use the mobile app. People have trouble interpreting the sleep score.
Yeah, you're just bringing some insights into this simulation.
Exactly. Things that we would have done in the discovery process.
Right.
And so, very common to see on social, WTF is the score, I slept enough and had no sleep stress. So basically, people have trouble understanding what it is, and how it's calculated. And so we personally have brainstormed a few solutions, one we're excited about is making the sleep score an equation. So people see the inputs like sleep stress, time slept, time with REM plus deep sleep, and then they see the score.
And just as a reminder, we are in Claude right now. This is a project?
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. So what am I doing here? So what I've done is I've created a Claude project. You are a master prompt writer for AI prototyping tools, and I've given it these project instructions. Write great prompts that help Lovable, Bolt, V0 understand what the user is doing. And then I've given it a guide. So this is my own personal guide on how to use AI prototyping tools. You can equip it with whatever context you want. Mm-hmm. If you need some context, you can use my guide, right? And so that's going to allow it to create a much better prompt for these tools. You can see all we're doing is we're just putting in what we've learned, right? So we've learned, at least 10% of churned users, and we define that as people who haven't renewed after a year are leaving because of this frustration. So, so we want to prototype a new homepage that helps people see they can click in. And when they click in on sleep score, they get a better result. And so this is going to create a prompt for us. I'll attach a picture of those pages currently for the tool. You write a great prompt about this, so it really will be a great user testing tool. Think deeply. Try your best. So we have a nice prompt here. So what have I done here, right? I've given it all the discovery insights. Mm-hmm. I've given it one solution that you want to do, and then I've given it some of the metrics, what it's going to attach, and then I've given it some prompt bait. And we're going to you can use Claude Sonnet 4 because it's pretty fast, Opus 4.1 if you're having any troubles with it, but I like Claude Sonnet 4. And so it's going to start to draft this artifact, and we're going to review this before we just plug it in. So we're redesigning sleep score to address confusion. It's got the metrics. It's got the design direction. From an opaque number into a transparent equation. 2 connected screens. Enhanced homepage. Boom. 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 I think this is pretty good. And so you can see that we've got a pretty good prompt. I feel good about it. I don't think it needs much more updating, and I think that's because we had set it up with the right context and everything like that. So we're going to hit copy there. Mm-hmm. And then here's one of the tricks, right? Is you don't want to just use one of the prototyping tools. That's why we call it like a parallel prototyping workflow.
Right, because you're almost comparing what the output is going to be like across these 3 different tools.
And what I'm just realizing is actually those two, I didn't give it the pictures. And so I'm just going to go ahead and stop it. I don't even want it to run too much. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to just start a new chat. So we need to actually paste in those screens. So that's another key thing when you're working with these tools is if you actually give it
some more visual
context, it works much, much better. And so let's find those screens for it. So we want to find the Whoop mobile app home screen. Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. We found it. And then we want to have the Whoop mobile app sleep screen. And so we'll check that. Boom. So we found that now as well. So now they're actually equipped with the right context to deliver it in the right look and feel that you want it. So now that we have the proper context, we're going to go ahead and set all these off. And one of the other things about a parallel workflow is it helps you see which one is going to be faster, which one you want to iterate on. So it's very useful. I don't know
what's happening here. Yeah,
I don't know what's happening with V0. So
while this is running, actually, one thing I wanted to point out is you kind of wrote this prompt in Claude and provided it with context and everything. And I think sometimes people don't necessarily know how to write a prompt.
Yeah.
And one of the superpowers I have found is using the prompt generator in the Anthropic console, which I think is like I don't know why it's like a hidden thing, but it just makes life way easier. So you could just like literally write plain English in there and it will write this super enhanced prompt for you for whatever it is you're trying to do.
Yeah. The prompt generator from Anthropic is a great call out. So we're just going to try to restart V0 here while we're working. Live demo. We also had
You had two screens, right? In the home screen, yeah.
Let's try it now. There we go.
There you go.
Just some sort of error. So you can actually, it's fun to watch these things too. Because you want to, as you're building, you want to build more fluency around these. So, if you don't know what Tailwind is, this is a great time to be like, what's Tailwind? If you don't know what a CSS is in the first file, you could have learned about that. So it's, okay, this is a utility CSS framework. It's styling. So, okay, Lovable is going to style with the Tailwind framework. And then you can learn more about, okay, what is it creating? Okay, it's creating these different components, circular progress, sleep car, metric bar, sleep breakdown. So later when you're trying to analyze and iterate, you actually understand what's going on here.
And if you want to edit anything, you know which component to go to if you wanted to touch the code or things like that as well.
Yep. Look at this. Boom.
Wow.
Bolt's already done, right? And so you can actually see, okay, well, this doesn't look clickable. Okay, that's how they made it clickable. All right, and then boom, here's exactly how he calculated your sleep score, 70. So, that's a pretty good solution. Now, it doesn't look a lot like Whoop. So we could go ahead and just give it some feedback like, match the images much better. Needs to look like our app for user testing. And then we also had another thing here where like that sleep at the top wasn't clickable. So make the sleep selector at the top another way to get to this page. We lost the charts, which added value. So we need a way for people to see those easily without clicking, right? So you're giving it some really good feedback as well. You're not just accepting the first version. This one at least looks a little bit more like Whoop.
Right.
It's not much better, but it's a little bit better. All right, and how did it do? Okay, so it showed it like this. So you can almost say like, which one do I like better? And in this case, again, I think it needs a lot of the same feedback actually. It's like, first of all, the homepage isn't complete.
I was a bit lazy there.
Yeah. Isn't completely matching. 2, we need a more compelling sleep page with charts in a more beautiful equation, right? And so you're going to push each of these before you really decide. Lovable, it's taking a little bit longer, right? I think what we do is if we just zoom out, might show us something. All right, so what did Lovable do here? Okay, it looks okay. It still doesn't look that good, to be honest. And then it shows a similar, in this case, the equation is barely visible, right?
Yeah.
And so like 1, homepage needs to look exactly right. 2, equation isn't prominent enough on sleep page. 3, sleep page still needs charts, right? So actually all of them made the same mistakes. So you might go back and say, maybe I
you
need to
needed more
improve the
context.
prompt.
Right.
Yeah. So all 3 made the same mistakes. Here's the feedback I gave them. Improve the original prompt. And so you can actually, what we'll try to do is we'll create one final version, right? And so
where you give it the new prompt.
Yeah, just to test it. And the one I liked the best out of the 3 was V0.
Yeah.
So we're going to try that as well. Sometimes when it iterates on something, it's not as good as just having a fresh start. And so we're going to try that as well.
And also sometimes it breaks.
Exactly. Now all of a sudden I'm loving what Bolt did. It took our feedback pretty well. It's still working, but you can see this page looks like 100 times better than any of the other pages we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And it's very fun to see exactly how Claude is trying to improve this. It's actually chosen the wrong colors. So you've actually chosen the wrong colors. Claude actually needs the right images as well to choose the right colors. And so we'll just add those back in for Claude. We're loving this though.
This is pretty neat.
We've hit our Bolt balance, so that's it for the demo on Bolt. But you can see, like, your company could pay for it, which would be ideal. And now look at this. Whoa, I'm loving this, right? It's showing me the sleep score. I can actually click into the equation. I love that solution. So it's now come up with a great solution, and so you could use what we have from Bolt. And what you can actually do, what I recommend people do, is they either publish it or they download the code and edit it further in Cursor. And Cursor becomes your iteration tool for these. So yeah, amongst the 3, it seems like Bolt is the best. If we had a little more time, although we're already at 15 minutes, you might just say, you know what? I was working on this thing with Claude. I'm just going to stop it because I like what we have at Bolt. I'm just going to download the code that we have here, and I'm going to start to iterate on Cursor. And so what did this workflow do, right? So this workflow looked at 3 different tools. It iterated on what we got from each tool, and it had a really good prompt with really good context that had done problem discovery first. So I think those are the 4 key takeaways for you guys. AI prototyping is the most significant change product management has seen. Everybody needs to learn this skill, and hopefully this helps you get a little better.
I love that. And one of the things I also wanted to say is we obviously love the output from Bolt. Like, the quality of the output was really good. And I think in AI prototyping, it really depends what your goal is. If your goal is, for example, you're concept testing, or you just want to quickly understand, what the customer feedback would look like if you even showed a low fidelity prototype, maybe you decide to use like magic patterns or something. It doesn't always have to be high fidelity. The whole point is you are drastically reducing the time it takes to do this type of work usually. Now, you imagine a larger company, you want to put something like this out there or run a user testing session, you have to engage with a design team. You have to have someone who's available to help you. They need to jump on a call and you need to brief them. And then maybe they go away for like a few weeks and then they come back and they show you the first version. So what used to take weeks now takes literally minutes, right?
15 minutes.
Exactly. So I really love that. Aakash, thank you so much for being on the show today. Before I let you go, I've got a lightning round of questions for you. And these are questions I like to ask our guests. The first one is, if you had a piece of advice for any product manager listening to us today, a single piece of advice, what would it be?
Spend at least an hour a week trying out a new AI tool.
I love that. If you're listening, you know what you have to do. The second thing I really enjoy asking our guests is, you have to bear with me here. There's this show that I love, which is a BBC radio show called Desert Island Discs, which is basically where, some famous people like yourself would come on the show and the host would ask them, imagine you're stranded on a desert island and you have to choose like 10 records, like music records. Which ones would you choose? We're not going to do that. But in similar fashion, I wanted to ask, so imagine you're stranded on a desert island and you can take one book. What would this book be? So that's the first part. And the second part is, you get an endless supply of one single dish you can eat for the rest of, eternity, what would that one dish be and why?
Oh my gosh. I guess for the book, I want to choose something that's fictional because it's like, fun. I just have to reread it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So I want to choose something that's incredibly long. I want to choose something that has a lot of layers and different angles. So I'd try to find all of the 6 published Game of Thrones books so far in one book.
Yeah.
That'd be my
like a mega
hack.
volume.
Exactly. So that'd be my book.
Yeah.
And then food-wise, I guess I need something because that's what I'm eating that's like healthy enough, but also like feels like a treat sometimes, but has most of the things I need. So I guess I would do like a fully loaded avocado toast.
I love that. Yeah, well, people respond to this question in many different ways. In the last few episodes, I can see how guests always trying to balance like the health part and the tasty part, which kind of makes sense. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really enjoyed this. Where can people find you and where can they follow you?
Yeah, Substack newsletter, product-growth.com, LinkedIn. Those are the 2 best places to find me. Also have a podcast, which is on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Love it. Thanks again for being on the show, being on Product in Practice today, and good luck with everything you're doing.
Likewise.
Ever wonder how the best product leaders actually work day to day? Not the polished slides, the real steps, the tools, the messy middle. That's what we dig into on Product in Practice. I sit down with people building the future and we walk through their actual workflows so you can see exactly how to get things done and take those ideas back to your team. First episodes are up now at atlassian.com/Axel. That's AXEL.